Hi.
Hi, my name is Louise.
And hi, I'm Emma.
And you're listening to Murder or Myth,
the true crime podcast where not everything is true.
The aim of the game is to find out whether the story is actually a murder or if it's just a myth.
Now, let's get started.
So in this week's episode, I'm going to be telling a story to Emma. This is a little bit of an interesting story. This is a myth. This is a murder or myth come to life.
You didn't give away something there, Louise? No?
No.
No? Okay.
I saying what? What did I say?
So, this is a myth. This is a murder or myth.
No, this is a murder or myth come to life.
Okay, gotcha. Excited to hear. Intrigued already.
Okay. So this is the story of Welsh novelist, playwright and convicted murderer Samuel Blethen. So Blethen was never a suspect in the murder of Deborah and Lloyd Arnall. However, he managed to reveal himself with the success of his second produced play.
Good night.
Yeah, thanks. No, we're okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Blethen...
So, I don't know what you said also, so maybe if you go back.
Stop looking at it, I think you're reading.
Sorry, I can't read it from here. I'm blind.
Blethen was never a suspect in the murder of Deborah and Lloyd Arnall. However, he managed to reveal himself with the success of his second produced play.
So he murdered people?
He murdered people and...
Wasn't found out until he wrote a play.
Until he kind of outed himself.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
So, hence the murder or myth element. So, in June 1954, Blethen graduated from Coleg Ceredigion, a college in Aberystwyth, with a degree in American literature and composition. During his time in college, he began courting Charlotte Morris, and the couple dated for 2.5 years before Blethen proposed. Charlotte rejected his marriage proposal, and Blethen was said to have been grief-stricken and started developing alcoholic tendencies. In January of the following year, Blethen accepted a post at Pencader Publishing House, translating literature from Cymraeg, a Celtic language of the I cannot pronounce these words, of the Brittonic subgroup that is native to Wales, to English.
Very detailed already.
His
I really
do not know much about Welsh. His colleagues described him as a bit of a loner, being distant and withdrawn. However, on the 9th of March 1955, Blethen wrote a letter to his mother about meeting a woman while living in Pencader, who he was smitten with and was building the courage to ask out. However, he didn't mention any details about how he knew this woman or her name. At this time, Blethen was working with Deborah Arnall, one of the murder victims, who was translating one of her poetry books. So now we're going to fast forward 4 years. So he's working with this woman.
Before she died. Okay, got it.
Fast forward 4 years, in 1959, Blethen wrote his second play that went to production, Death Reckoning. It was said to be a modern-day Romeo and Juliet, quote, a tragic story of star-crossed lovers. The play was set in America and revolved around a woman, Donna Davies, who was a receptionist working for a law firm and fell in love with one of the lawyers. Donna was already married and began having an affair with this lawyer. Her husband found out about the affair and brutally murdered Donna. Okay?
Yeah.
Following so far?
Following, I think.
So this is where things get interesting. In the play, her husband tied Donna's arms behind her back before stabbing her repeatedly in their kitchen. Her husband then buried her body in a remote woodland outside of the town where they lived. So that's the play. Now back to the actual murder of Deborah and Lloyd Arnall. Their bodies were found buried in a forest 20 miles outside of Pencader with rope marks on their wrists and ankles.
Okay.
They had over 15 stab wounds each throughout the chest and abdomen. And after a number of people had heard about the murder of Deborah and Arnall, they became suspicious of the similar details from watching the play. Police then went to Blethen's house to find printed photos of Deborah in his drawers, a dirty, bloody shovel outside his back door, and bloodstains on his kitchen wall. Deborah's friend Margaret came forward saying Blethen had made a number of advances on Deborah while working together, which she had repudiated.
Repudiated?
Repudiated?
And what does that mean, Louise?
Like rejected.
Okay.
Blethen admitted guilt and called the judge a fool for not seeing the hints in his previous published writings, which included his last book that revolved around a man stalking his co-worker that had previously rejected him. He was sentenced to life, although many argued he should have been sentenced to the death penalty, which had been abolished in Wales 4 years previous.
Okay.
And that's the end of my story.
And that's the end of your story. So,
what are your thoughts?
They found the bloody shovel and all that at the time, or 4 years later after the play was put out?
After the play was found out, they went to his house.
And there was still evidence?
There's still evidence at his house, yeah.
4 years later.
4 years later.
That's a long time.
That is a long time. I don't know, I guess he was a bit of a psycho.
Yeah, I guess all playwrights are.
Yeah, so true.
So I'm really confused, actually, because
okay,
I thought it was a myth immediately.
I didn't mean to say myth. I said this is murder myth, but that's so fair.
And then there was a lot going on, like a lot. I was like, I don't think there's any way you could have researched all of this and made it up. Then I hate to fall into the trap of the word game.
You're so silly.
But repudiated came out of nowhere.
I'm an incredible scholar, actually. The words I know.
So, I'm very much torn between a murder story, which had a lot of detail, or just really, really well researched and background research on Wales.
I love that you're torn.
Is it too obvious to say murder? I'm so confused. I want to... But were you researching this? It kind of ended abruptly in the end. And why was there 4 years later he had a bloody shovel?
That's true. I don't know.
I actually don't know. Is this... Oh. If I say one or the other, it's going to be the other. And I'm actually going to be...
That's so true.
annoyed.
It's literally going to be whatever you didn't say. I'm gonna say myth. You're gonna say myth?
Final answer, myth.
It is a myth.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. 4 years is a long time, actually. I didn't really think about that.
How?
Such small details. Like, fast forward 4 years. Ugh, you just shouldn't have still had a shovel.
So much good detail in that. I was like, what the fuck? How did you, like, even think of, like, the Wales aspect of language is all this, like. And then I suppose as well, like, words like repudiated, you just do a thesaurus look up. It's like, fanciest word for this, please.
I just looked up, I'd already used rejected, so I just looked up a cinema of rejected.
That's so fair. Okay, so that was myth.
I wish you'd said murder.
I'm so sorry.
I also really did not mean to say myth at the start. And I was like, I was just like, this is a murder, a myth come to life. That's what I tried to say. Like, that's what I'd written down.
Yeah,
like,
I just picked up on the fact that you said this is a myth.
Like, I wouldn't write down.
I know.
This is a myth.
I know.
Oh.
The 4 years that really kind of put me over the edge.
I think you just wanted to
also,
say myth.
Donna and the lawyer reminded me of Suits. Isn't there Donna in there? I was like, did she just get all these characters?
That's interesting. I actually did not connect that. But there is a Donna and Suits, I think. Yeah, but that was not where I got it from.
The lawyer,
all.
doesn't she?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
I think she does.
But I was kind of like Donna and Deborah.
Okay, fair.
Like, very closely inspired.
Yeah, so that was a great story, but I don't know, some weird feeling in me was like, it's a myth. Maybe there was too much details.
I think we need to stop focusing on the details. I think it's just a gut feeling.
It was a gut feeling,
yeah.
So.
Oh, don't say it was a gut feeling. No, it wasn't. You're so torn. I'm going to take that as a win. You're torn.
You literally just
as long as it's not an immediate, like, myth, I'm happy enough.
Do you want to look at my notes?
That's because I said it. She has myth written down in capital letters. Okay. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Emma, as per usual, is not prepared for the outro. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe.
On this week's episode, I figured out Louise's story was actually a myth.
Find us on all streaming platforms.
Join us next week for another thrilling adventure.
Remember, it's myth until proven murder. Schley.